This body that knows and guides. This body that really, when we can live in and through her, when we can take those moments to really pause and listen, really lets us know our deepest truth. Lets us tune into feeling rather than responding through the mind or responding through older parts of us that come into reaction rather than deep listening. So I want you just to call forth that wisdom in you. Call forth that part of you, your womb, that knows, that speaks. Because that is the power of woman. And we are being called forth to listen more deeply, to lead from this space of knowing. From compassion and from leadership. So just calling that part of you into this space, and any pieces of you that have journeyed in and around that. Let's just take a breath in together. Beautiful. And then coming back to this space. So I'm going to pass over to Rita because her wisdom around this era and this time and this conversation is profound, and it creates such a container for the greater perspective of what's happening, for us to then lean into a deeper conversation between each other around this subject. So welcoming beautiful Rita Hraiz into this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presence. Yeah. What is discernment? And that word really goes with discrimination. And so many of you have met me. Thank you for showing up at different talks I've done. But for those of you that haven't, when I'm speaking now, I want to speak from a very deep exploration and study about the spiritual evolution of humanity. Aimee talks about this new time, the fact that, we're about 80 years now in a 2,000-year cycle, entering the age of Aquarius. And the last 2,000 years was the age of Pisces. And it was demarked by Jesus in the office of the Christ asking John the Baptist to baptize him in the waters. 2,000 years ago, that marked the beginning of the age of Pisces, according to the ageless wisdom. And that is something about preparing to purify our emotional bodies. So in the last 2,000 years, in the age of Pisces, one of its qualities is the all-seeing, deeply mystical, spiritual. And another side of it is that will martyr itself. And that request to John the Baptist to baptize him symbolically was really about that next 2,000 years, which we just come to the end of, was on an evolutionary level for humanity about finding stability in our emotional body, purifying that place that we have been pilgrimaging on lifetime upon lifetime, where we had fallen into separation, forgetting that we were in the at-one-ment once upon a time, and that you already exist in the at-one-ment from another aspect of your being, which is what you've heard me talk about a lot this couple of days. Your spirit, the eternal, stainless purity of your being that's already at one with the one, is not separate. It's not in this place of irritation, agitation, separation, which brings war, basically. And the Aquarian age presents a new vision where we, like, think back to the Coca-Cola advert, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, grow apple trees and honeybees. Something like that. But that kind of was the beginning, wasn't it? The 60s. People taking acid and being naked at festivals and in a sexual revolution. It was a big time of change. And we're deepening and deepening into this time. And we're learning a lot along the way. Because what was a sexual revolution, in many ways, ended up quite disastrously with many single parents. I talked about that just earlier. And children not having fathers. You know, it's painful, and we're seeing different levels of mess. But where are we all going? We are going into a new time where our DNA is being activated. What was very narrow strands of DNA, we have 144 strands. We are being activated in a very big way. That's why all over this earth, people are having these Kundalini wake-ups. And yet, within it all, there are 3 main stages of awakening that have to happen, which are called initiations, which nobody can initiate you or speed up your path. It's about opening the channel along your spine, which is your central channel, and your chakras coming into alignment in order to get through the hardest of the initiations, before your brow center opens, before your Shakti, before the great Shakti can be risen through your body to the crown of your head. Before that happens, we have to come to the point of stillness inside of ourselves to develop the equanimity, to have the tolerance, the patience, the compassion, to see beyond another person's wound and understand why they are playing up how they are playing up. From their distrust, they're repeating the story of they can't trust anybody in their minds again and again, and then they recreate the same levels of disappointment again and again, and often you can be projected upon as the one causing the disappointment again and again, and play out the same old story. And each of us calls towards ourselves until we can go through the second initiation of discernment and discrimination, where our heart center is aligned to the solar plex. And we can actually develop the wisdom to look through the heart center rather than being in this emotional reaction of, oh, I fucking knew that was going to happen. Of course he's going to be like that. Of course she's going to. And then we create and project the doom and gloom. So when I saw that Aimee had put down to talk about discernment, I said, please let me join in this conversation, because this is the hardest thing for all humanity to get to. And yet there's a collective coming into discernment and discrimination that's happening all over this earth. And it began happening in the Second World War. This is not my personal teaching. This is the ageless wisdom, which, if you hadn't heard of it, spans across every strand of truth coming from the source. So we are talking about, it includes Judaism, it includes Christianity, it includes Islam and Buddhism and the Vedas and all the paths without exception. Because there's always been masters on all the paths to show you the way back home, how to purify and come home to yourself, like really literally, so that you can see clearly and have peace. Because when we haven't got the ability to discern, and most women with respect who are deep empaths can just feel like, you know, I'll give you my own story in this just very briefly. My father was a compulsive gambler. I absolutely adored him. And I felt like I could at least have a spiritual and intelligent conversation with him, because he was Hindu. You know, he taught me how to meditate when I was 7. But his part that was in the addiction made me love that frequency and be attracted to that frequency that then became somebody who had to go through some very deeply painful stories because I attracted addicts into my life, and I'm still working with that story. And it becomes the jewel eventually. Only because I say that because now at 63, I'm being able to bring through an addiction treatment pathway that will be rolled into mainstream care that uses plant medicines. So that in itself, that's massive. Okay, so that was a long journey and suffering to come all the way through the other side. So your story is perfect for you. Everything that you have attracted towards you is going to keep repeating the same pains, Chiron, in your chart, to help you master the understanding until you have the depth of compassion that you just came here to embody. So I'm just going to leave it with that. I'm going to pass it back to Aimee, and I'm really happy to go into some practical guidance at some point around how can you unravel from negative karma that you may have created through walking a path of harmlessness and discerning and discriminating, because people, whilst they're about to go through what's called this second initiation, often have to choose a path. And often it can be that relationship that would have taken you into a mess. Because often we project what we really want onto another person until we go, oh, I'm still dealing with my own stuff. And then we want to run from ourselves again. Anyway, I'll pass it on.
Amazing. Wow, thank you, Rita. One again.
Boom. Yeah. I it's amazing. I only ever really want to share and have conversations around, with other women in these sacred spaces when something has either been really alive for me or something that, I only ever really share from a lived and embodied space. That's really, my way of service. And for me, this journey with discernment, I think, has been a lifelong one, because I've been someone who's been, like a lot of us, I think, as women, have been fawning a lot most of my life, which, if anyone doesn't know that expression within the nervous system, we have fight and flight, freeze, but we also have fawn, and we don't speak about that a lot, actually, within nervous system teachings, and it's something that is really carried in women, and it's that part of us that just goes into pleasing and sort of sees to serve the other rather than serve the self first. And that's my karma. I mean, you've looked at my chart, you know about all of that stuff. And for me, I'm definitely still a humble student to this, and this is why I love these conversations. But I was on reflection around this last night, actually, Rita, thinking about what we were going to share about, and I realised, and this is probably a question for you as well, because I'd love your wisdom on this. There are parts of me that are fundamentally discerning, actually, and certain aspects of life. I mean, let's talk about, for example, right now, spiritual communities and what we're seeing right now in terms of the rise of the awakening, and people wanting to just go straight into leadership. And I don't know, they have their experience in, they're amazing, they meet their soul in a medicine space, and all of a sudden they want to serve medicine. And we're seeing this all over the place because people don't know how to be in their body. They haven't actually sat in the stillness, which is what Rita's talking about in terms of that first stage. And I'm so grateful that for 10 years of my life I couldn't really move my body because all I could do was sit. And it was in that place where I started to unfurl for the first decade of this path, really. And I feel that right now our discernment is fundamentally important, because there is so much beckoning us, even within, especially within spiritual communities right now. And one of the things that I feel brings us into a nature of being able to know and lead from that intuition and knowing is how to actually come down and in, to live in and through, to like this energy right now wants to absolutely crack us open and take us to the cosmos, because we're speeding up, right? And we are coming into this age of telepathy. And I believe that in terms of when we're talking about embodied feminine leadership, like the one bridge for me that brings us into that is our devotion, is our commitment to being able to come in and down into the body and to create space for that, you know, in all moments that we can. It's one of the biggest feminine principles that there is. And but then we feel like we may be in our body, and I safely say, like, I'm a woman that really, like, I am on the mat every day. Nothing will prevent that for me. It's a way of it's not something I do, it's something that is. I'm very Virgoic in my chart, and you know, I just love devotion. And you can be in that, and you can be so in your body, and then this karma that Rita's talking about, or something that, and I want to ask you about this in terms of what you were saying about the sort of the co-creation of that, how we create that. Or there's the part of life that wants to bring us into our own growing, and even being in our body and knowing all these things, is there something will all of a sudden pull you into this place of alchemy, and that discernment can be lost.
Yeah.
You know, because there's something else that's pulling us into this growing.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you about that, in that way of when you were talking about karma, and how sometimes we can actually create that.
Yeah.
So in that moment where we're being pulled into that, yeah, what is your wisdom on that, and how can we be more aware in those moments? Because I'd love to know.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, there's no wrong path. So whilst you're at that crossroads, faced with, do I go down this route or this route, they're both perfect. And that's really truth. There is nothing but the great perfection. And karma yet is such a powerful force. It's like an ocean. It's going to come through your life. You've come with karma, we all have. And then some of us, including me, very much me, have created lots of karma. And then when we wake up, we go, how am I going to unravel this? And that's part of these 3 initiations that bring us to have that Kundalini rising, where the brow center opens and then we cut through duality. So to me, the speedy way is to do practices to cut through duality, which is what I really love and honor through the Buddhist Vajrayana path that I am trained in for lifetime. So it's fairly effortless for me to see this way and talk this way. I'm very practiced in it. However, your spirit, the eternal aspect of your being, the holy I am presence that's at one with the one, your enlightened state where you are whole magnificence and made of cosmic fire, that is just there effortlessly, that brings the consciousness, the awareness. And to come into the stillness, to allow yourself, you, the ego personality aspect of you, to open to this cosmic intelligent awareness, presence, definitely will show you how to listen to your body and not your mind. You touched upon it at the beginning. So in those moments, and the thing about it is, Aimee, and it's a very interesting one, because this in some ways unfolding in your life right this second, if you don't mind me saying, you know, I'm just observing you, and I care about you, and I care about everybody actually. There's nobody I don't care about in reality. When sometimes something pulls to us, it's like a carrot's dangled, what we think is just like the solution to everything and the most amazing, magnificent next level of expansion of ourselves. I've had 2 of those this last few months. And I think, wow, that's amazing. Well, yes, you know, and then suddenly it goes, whoa, this isn't actually what I want and need. If I was to do that, where would I have space for me? What would, like, it, you know, your body starts to show you it's wrong for you. And then you have to change your mind. And I feel that the great news is, for all of us, we are in a time where we can give ourselves permission to say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I'm sorry. I began this very strongly. I had a Kundalini awakening 34 years ago. And I was, deep in meditation every day, wearing white, blah, 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 sitting in my pyramid, full power meditation. It was amazing. But I had, let go of talking to friends every day and all these things. It was really what I needed at that time. And to integrate, and I went into very high telepathic states. However, when I went back into the world and grounded it out, got a job cleaning now and these type of things and all of it, then I ended up creating this cake business, and I found I have to go to meetings, I have to be on time.
Did you say cake?
Cakes,
Yeah,
cake business, amazing cake business.
Yeah.
It was like out of Chocolat, the movie.
Oh, wow.
In between breastfeeding, making cakes, single parent at home, then I was supplying Harrods and Selfridges, all this kind of thing. But I had to turn up at meetings, and I was like, well, how am I going to manage that? Because I listen to my body. If I'm going to listen to my body and my body says, you need this extra hour with this child, or don't go to that meeting now, how do you do it? And I just created my life. Sorry, I'm just laughing thinking about my business partner Scooby, who used to have to wait for me quite long times for meetings. But I created my life that I could be in my flow that works with my body, and that I could change my mind and just see. Now I have got much better at this than I used to be. And that, in other words, respecting everybody else's time as well. But every now and again, I'll have to say to my team, look, I'm just feeling I've got to cancel this appointment. And listen, we have to, basically, to discern and discriminate, the training, the starting point is that your body is the altar. It is ultimately designed with precision and great magnificence beyond words. You have a meridian system that has 1,000 gateways in it. And once you start to etherically awaken and you really feel the presence of the Great Mother coming through your body, you are activated sexually, sensually. It opens your meridian systems. And then it starts to open your minor chakras. You've got vortexes in your breasts, behind your eyes, in your lips, behind your nose, like in your fingertips, in your hands, the soles of your feet. You are so cosmic. And so to actually start to go, for us to progress, this was the starting point for me, for us to progress to a race that's highly telepathic, that allows ourselves to know what everybody's thinking and to have the transparency to not care if people know what you're thinking. It's a very different place to having the agendas of selfishness, greed, and needing to have power and dominate over another and to take credit for another person's glory, which is what we've all come from. So we are being moved, family, to really listen to your womb space, your Hara center, and to really listen to your body and not your mind, because your mind can trip you, because you've got encoded genetically through the bloodlines that you've come through a whole lot of traits from your ancestors that were not based on love and light and wisdom. There's karmic conditions where you think you're imperfect, where you judge yourself, where you compare yourself, and then you're judging other people. And you can just, like, imagine when you're waking up and then you've got some friends that were always unkind and just slightly put you down and didn't respect you. How do you move through that if you know you're drained after that? You have to discern, discriminate, to go, look, you know what? For this period, I'm going on a spiritual sabbatical, so don't take it personally. I'm not having contact with people in the old way. You need to be able to say that. I'm taking a lot of space because I'm in an awakening now. And I'm sorry it might seem crazy. I love you. Always know I will love you. That's not going to change. But I'm not giving time to hang out, to talk about stuff. You don't have to say this to them, but in your mind you know, I'm not going to talk about crap anymore, the mundane. And that's a period, okay? And then once you have developed listening really well, you might have to go back to certain places, and then measure how clear are you in your solar plex. Are you taking your mother's words personally? Are you still irritated, agitated and upset? Can you sit through another conversation talking about EastEnders and what the neighbours have said and do it in a way that's calm and loving and just be an acceptance? Because one of the things as we develop a bit further is that we get to the point where you're not pulled by other people. You've just got compassion to where they are and how they are, but you don't have to stay too long. However, and there's another thing that happens in this stage of awakening around discernment, which we have to be careful of, which is, and I've watched it so much in relationships with people, when people, loads of my sisters in relationships with a guy will be in some level thinking that they're spiritually superior to their man. You know that that's true. Lots of you. How many of you know that you've done that? Okay? And this is part of what we have to clean. As a mother of 3 sons, every man on this earth came through the womb of a woman. Full stop. We are not at a different stage of humanity where they're being born elsewhere. And therefore, how the men have become has definitely got something to do with their mother. And if a mother doesn't respect her own body, how are we respecting our mother's body, this earth? And so one of the biggest things in terms of discernment and discrimination is 100% to understand that your body is a temple with circuitry that's so precise. Look, just here, put your fingertip in your belly button, this one, your index finger, in your belly button, and have your 4 fingertips going down. Don't you worry, I do that a lot. Okay, if you do this, and then where your little finger is where the vortex of your Hara center, the nadis, the spiritual gateway is here. This is where 74,000 filaments of your nervous system come here. These are called your nadi system. And when these are calm and are allowed to unfurl, you unfurl the tree of life within your being to have the space to travel. Actually, I'm giving a talk about that tomorrow, so I'm going a bit off.
Yeah. Wow, potent. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I suppose, I mean, I have no idea what the time is either, I'm just going to go with it, but I suppose off the back of everything that Rita's talking about our bodies being the altar, and, you know, being someone as well, going back into my story of just being someone that really puts service ahead of my own well-being, you know, and how many people can honestly relate to that as women?
And it is your chart.
True.
As in, it's your biggest gift. You've
Exactly.
incarnated to do this, so
True.
don't beat yourself up for it. Okay.
No,
Okay,
thank
good.
you, darling.
Okay.
Bless you. Aw. See? Isn't she amazing?
Yes.
Yeah, but then, do you know what's so beautiful is coming home to the knowing, actually, like through devotion and through these cycles of growing, which we're all experiencing. You know, I remember years ago, I mean, let's talk about the GGG. This is a really good example. So when I started this in 2019, it was you know, this vision, and it was definitely winging it, not knowing, having an idea of what to do, but knowing it was being called forth as a prayer. And that's where I am discerning, actually, is that I will never create something and the Spirit has completely and utterly guided me to do it. I'll never create something through force or because I want it. It's different. And you know, in those times yeah, I mean, I think I was carried into a car and driven home after the 4 days because I'd just given so much. I don't even remember the journey home, you know, and then 7 years later you're here. And held by this phenomenal team of women, you know, who are here in community. And I think that's the part that I wanted to come in. So for me, the things that have helped me become a woman now that actually can say no, and not get it perfect. No, I'm absolutely still a student in this, and there are things, especially when it does come to, you know, creating change on this planet, that pull me in sometimes, because I really do want peace on earth so deeply. But when I zoom out and I see how far I've come in terms of creating the space within my own life to really walk a path that ignites my soul and allows me to tend to that life force that moves through me every day, and I would not have been able to create that life with being this yes person and this non-discerning woman continuously. You know, I look at my life, I zoom out, my past self's like, oh, what the fuck, this is amazing, I had no idea, you know, it's almost like beyond belief. And the three things that I wanted to just bring in as that for me, the first one is embodiment, and that's everything that Rita's been talking about. It's coming deep and into this feminine body, to the innate intelligence, to the earth, like descending and rooting and unfurling ourselves to Mother before we even think about cracking ourselves open to the cosmos, you know, to find that place that whispers inside of us. And when we do pause and take those moments of silence, that thread to the divine, it really does develop, and it really can be and create a place in your life where there can be moments where you are listening to the greater wisdom of your womb rather than the mind that wants to just say yes and help everybody, you know. But I want to talk about one other point which I think is incredibly important, is community. And I think this is like a huge thing that I've experienced recently in my life, and always actually, you know, repeated patterns around this of sometimes we need people around us to be those mirrors, you know, to call a thing out, and to this is why we need each other. We can be the most embodied, wise, discerning person, and then something comes along to bring us into even deeper embodiment of who we're truly here to be. And sometimes in that moment we can't do the thing, because that's what we chose as our soul way back when we chose this beautiful contract. So it's really, for me, and again linking that to embodied feminine leadership, it's so fundamental that we're creating community and surrounding ourselves with women and brothers as well, that we can really be ourselves with, and that can be those people that can go, should we check in about that? Or just to be, not someone that's telling you what to do, there's a very big difference, but just to be that place of discerning together. Actually, there's something in that actually. And the third one I really wanted to bring in, because this is what has radically changed my life more than any other practice, and that is the power of self-parenting. I mean, we experienced it in the opening ceremony when we brought the inner child in. It was a powerful moment for a lot of people, right? Who can relate to that? Like, and when we met that little girl inside, that maybe has learned conditional love and hasn't even been met by our own love yet. And the things that we came here to carry in terms of the bloodline, I mean, that's a whole other story, that we then relearned from our parents. You know, when this little girl is feeling unsafe inside of us, which we all have, because we've all learned conditional love, often we do come into that reactive place, that dysregulated place, where we make choices from that wound of, this isn't safe because this is what happened way back when, or this reminds me of my father and that moment of trauma. So I believe, again, as part of this new paradigm, is one of the most important things to be an embodied woman in these times is to learn how to give ourselves that love and devotion that we probably did not have as a child. In fact, we all didn't. Yeah. Can anyone, what's your opinion on that, Rita?
Thank you. Well, first of all, let's just go back to community. Very, very fine line in terms of the templates that are being downloaded, because they haven't landed. I am not seeing what I would call enlightened society in the space of community, and actually we are working towards that. So I walk a path that is very influenced by the Kala chakra. Do you know the Dalai Lama teaches the Kala chakra initiations? The Kala chakra is like really understanding that there is this place called Shambhala where the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are radiating, influencing, like Venus, sister planet, but it's like a sister in a plane, telepathically influence humanity, helping humanity to understand how we become an enlightened society. That is what it is to come into the golden age, the age of Aquarius. That's what's going to happen. But to get there, we are so not close to that in this moment. If we were to all stay here and have food bought and we don't move for a year, and we squeeze us down just to the one part, even though we can make it comfortable, you know, and not put you all in tents on hills. That's a whole process. I'm pretty sure. Certainly I wouldn't like to be ahead of this community or something like that, because every day we would have, oh, do you know what? This person didn't do the washing up. She's always you know, like it would start. Okay? Because how many of you have mastered harmony in your own family? Okay? Or this dream of this lovely community. So there's these awakened Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Kalki King that actually on earth a long time ago they had what was called an enlightened society, a Shambhala energy. That's what this mystical story is. But we are preparing to become that. When each of us goes through the third initiation, when Shakti has made her way all the way through your body and your body can hold her voltage, the vastness, the ocean of her force, and she opens you to connect with the magnificence of the stainless purity of your being, and you can then own your own shadow on every single level of the places that you project, separate, blame, and find fault. That's when we can begin. So we're not there yet, because first we have to go through the first initiation and the second. The first is coming into right relationship with our sexual energy, and that can only happen when our throat center stops speaking negatively about people, finding fault with people, which is very damaging to them, pouring that into their etheric field. You cannot imagine how deep that curses a person and brings obstacles to them. And there's probably nobody here that can put their hand up and say that they didn't feel this towards somebody at times, let alone being habitually bought into talking about people, which I know that happens. So for your throat chakra to turn clockwise and draw your sexual energy up, because it's aligned to your sacral center, you have to master harmlessness and right speech and right thought, to not follow the thought of scathing criticism towards somebody. That's the first stage of our awakening. And what happens when your throat chakra is going anti-clockwise, pushing onto your sacral center, your sexual energy just goes down, always never feeling gratified. The orgasm gets ever receding. You can't quite get to that. And people go down and down. Now they're doing fucking bondage and using all sorts of shit. And then it goes worse, because now they're like, okay, actually, that godly light in that child, I think I want that. That is the debauchery of your the sacral chakra, going so deep and anti-clockwise where nothing material will satisfy it, so it's going to take a child. So these are cosmic laws I'm talking about. I'm not making this up, and it's not my opinion, and it's not new age bullshit stuff. This is cosmic law. We're designed, like the sun, to radiate a clockwise spiral, like the golden mean spiral, which is what the Great Pyramids of Giza have. The phi ratio, that beautiful design you see in the sunflowers. Your own heart center's designed like that. We are solar beings that basically need to make our connection to the source of all existence, source of creation, the central spiritual sun behind the physical sun. And the mother and the father are in a very divine relationship to each other, and we get reborn. That's what happens when you're in a Kundalini wake up. You're reborn into the innocence of you being turned inside out to know yourself in the arms of the mother and the father. That is what it is to wake up. And then you live in awe because you're in revelation and recognizing you are no longer the doer. You're empty of you, and you're guided every day into the right activity within the divine plan. That is the design for us. And it's then that we are going to find ourselves truly in community, because we are able to hold each and every brother and sister in the highest possible light that you can imagine. And so we can cut through their wounds and the places where they're not in their alignment to their own wholeness, rather than condemn them and say, no, that person's not in this tribe. Like right now, we have not got that level of purification here. We're in the passage of purification. And each of us has our homework, and it's the cleaning the bloodlines that we've come through. To practice the law of harmlessness every day, in every way, in every situation, with everything we think and say, rather than being in blame to another for disappointing your projection and expectation, and not giving people permission to change their mind because they're listening a bit deeper into what it is that they need.
Thanks very much, everybody. I have no idea what the time is, but I would really love to open it up to some questions, because it's just so beautiful, such a great topic. Go on, Veronica.
You were talking about self-mothering. I'm quite interested in your opinion on self-partnering.
Self what?
Partnering. And the power of that to...
How do you describe that?
Well, I describe that sense of not having the gaping hole, because you understand that is filled by your own inner being and your own soul, and therefore you can come to love from a place of wholeness rather than a place of empty.
Can I speak? Yes.
That's such a beautiful question. I've never, I suppose, named it in that term as self-partnering, but to me, that's how I see my relationship with the beloved. And it's, for me, in those moments, like, I go to sleep, I meet the beloved there, but I look forward to waking up because I get to meet the beloved, that unification of mother and father that Rita's talking about through my body every day. It's the most exquisite, what do you even call it? It's not a practice even for me. It's just the most exquisite meeting. And then within that place, that's for me where I realise that I'm whole.
Exactly.
When there's been so many parts of me for years seeking outside of myself, especially for love, inheriting such a deep story around I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, because at some point I was abandoned by both parents, and especially with my father. And even in that place now, through that devotion and that love that I find with spirit, with the beloved every day, I meet my father there. And that to me is that's self-partnering, if we want to call it like that. But that's my expression of that. And I'll pass it to Rita.
Thank you. And
not going to speak long on this, but I love that you're naming this, but that is your own inner alchemy. That is you've met the wholeness, and in that you come to divine completion. And then another choice arises, like that's a very inspired place to be. And I live in that, and I relate to it, and many of us here do. And when you feel that absolute divine wholeness, then the question is, do you try to pour that ocean into a kettle and just give it to one person? Or do you open yourself to share with the world? So, what's very profound here, and it opens another subject, I'll definitely go more into it tomorrow, which is then it's white tantra. It's the ultimate union internally that becomes externally everywhere all the time. And I'm watching many of you come to that realization and being in that here and realizing, you were never separate from the beloved. It's here, it's now.
More questions?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes.
Can I just ask for clarification? When you describe and you refer to the beloved, is that your experience of a spiritual father and mother?
Yes.
Beyond any physical form or transcends any religious boundaries?
Absolutely, for me.
It is
Yeah.
a felt sense of being held by something truly ultimate.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me it's that.
We didn't hear the question.
I'll repeat the question.
Nobody could hear what she said.
Oh, sorry.
She and this beautiful woman here, Bridget, asked about when we talk about the beloved, is that the holding of the mother-father? That, to one extent she's asking, but I would want to put it this way, may be helpful. I love the Native American way, the First Nation. They talk about the Great Spirit. The Sufis talk about the beloved, and it's all the same. It's the cosmic intelligence of the creator force. But what I see which simplifies it is when you've met the Great Spirit within your being, when you've come to that inner alchemy, when you know the father and the mother internally, then you can see the Great Spirit in these cob trees right here, in every blade of grass, in the passing of the clouds that are making love to the earth, in the face of the pansies and the margaritas, the lilies, everything, in the face of the children, in the eyes of the children. You are always meeting the Great Spirit. And actually these take us into higher states of awareness. Actually, you missed Lana's poetry, but her poetry describes, every poem that she writes describes this, the meeting of the beloved all the time, everywhere. There's no separation. And actually, that's a really important point. When your brow center opens, the inner eye, the third eye, when that opens, it's not something somebody can ever do to you. It's a ripening where you've cut through duality. These two eyes can see right, wrong, good, bad, judging this and that. This eye, when it opens, cuts through all of that. You've cut through the force matrix, and you're in revelation, and you are waiting for instruction by our creator, the Great Spirit, in every moment. And you're not in left brain mind of creating another construct from the wounded child that's trying to protect itself and keep itself in a narrow space, controlling things. So it's the one because it doesn't trust life.
Yes, sir.
Could it be that you don't, in my case, I don't think about that.
It just
It's
is.
happening.
Yes. You don't think about it.
Absolutely.
It's correct. Yes.
And
You're in it.
It's also known as the Tao. The Tao. When you are just moved. In the Tao, there's no thought. I always try to explain this. It's difficult sometimes because I can turn up for a meeting realizing, oh my goodness, I haven't got a clue at all what I'm going to talk about. I never know what I'm going to say any day, any talk. I have nothing planned. It just comes through if I'm empty and I'm feeling people, and I'll respond telepathically. But it's not even, there's no mind. And but it took time. There was a moment. Actually, I give thanks to Madre Ayahuasca. I have got to say that. She's a teacher to me. I'm not one of those people that think you need plant medicines to ripen and come to know the divinity. But I do say that she definitely helped me move through trying to fit into a world of constructed left brain mind, to let go into the trust of allowing what needs to unfold and not trying to control anything. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Any more people?
Okay, I'm gonna put myself on the spot. It's just I wanted to ask about, again, like the communal living, because you said it's not quite there yet. There's a lot to be done.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't practice it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I
feel relating back in the past, you know, so like so many different indigenous communities all over the world seeing everything as sacred. Of course, it was not like ideal, but they had more of an animist kind of view. And the communal way of living is so much connected to nature and to our own nature. And I feel the complete disconnection by just living in cities, even though you can have like little places of community. So yeah, I just want to ask, even though there's no perfection, isn't that the aim?
Thank you. Look, it is the aim, and we will get there. And your generation is going to be a lot better at it than my generation. That's for sure. For sure. I see it. It is moving. And when I think of my own grandchildren, which I talked about earlier, it's like they were born into love of a mother and a father that had awakeness and presence, and they were given presents every day. And that definitely will shape their future. And there's many more young children in that. It's very different to what my age group came from. So they're going to have a different template. Their connection to Creator and living in these sacred ways, you know, is much more already. So please don't let me try and dampen our inner dreaming that to be in community. Actually, those people, how many of you have been to plant medicine ceremonies? Okay, so you're going to know that what happens in a ceremony is a harmonic happens where the whole group unifies and everybody knows themselves as one family. And they absolutely are moved into wanting the best for each other. And there's something so gracious and beautiful and humbling about that. But the question is, do they take that home, and can they hold and maintain that and live that?
No. Try.
Yes, so we're moving towards it. There's a lot of inner work that we have to do, but we're given the glimpse. That, what you're seeing, is ceremonial white magic. And I forgot to say this, the age of Aquarius is marked by the incoming 7th solar lord, the 7th ray, which is the ray of cosmic divine order and ceremonial magic. Ceremonial white magic. And white magic is being moved out of the way, trusting in the will of the one to move you into the right activity within the divine plan. And the divine plan, by the way, just touching upon it now, but I would love to talk more about it tomorrow, sits in the very center of your heart. Your heart is a lotus. And you've been on a pilgrimage for so many lives to journey to the very center of your heart. And in the center of your heart is the most profound jewel gifted to you by the ultimate of creation, Creator. And when you come here, you're going to go, oh my God, everything I've ever wanted to do every day, 360-degree view, is manifesting through my life. That's coming for all of us. That's all it is. You're on a pilgrimage on the way back to the very center of your being, to unravel your purpose. And that purpose is to give what you love every day in every way. And that becomes an enlightened society. They talk about in Shambhala there are 960 million cities of awakened Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that have no need for money because they're in divine fulfillment. They have no need for air conditioning and heating because the environment is in divine perfection, because they're in a perfected state of their wholeness. And remember, you don't have to work hard to get that. You already that. You have to build the bridge to what you are. And that's what these initiations are, to your chakras going clockwise, aligning yourself to the source of all existence, calling in the holy I am presence of all that you are, all that you've ever been, and to open yourself to remember that in reality, we must hold the vision of wanting the best for every being on this earth, and that on our watch, that we can really hold the prayer that you have enough generosity to give back to the water charities on this earth, so that every woman, child and man, and I am going to cry because I think of the people in the Sudan right now, we need to give back, family. And when your heart center is open, you always have so much to be able to give back. And that we hold this, that every woman, child and man on this earth has enough food to eat and shelter. That we have to dream that in, family. It's us. You are the people that you've been waiting for. There's no doubt.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. Wow.
I think we've got time for one more question.
It's a little bit more 3D for both of you. I feel like my purpose right now in this season is to lead other women. And I feared that because I didn't feel like I'd walked the path long enough before I've begun to do it. And my question for you, Aimee, is, I mean, like you said, it's an embodied, I only share what I embody. If you've got any words of wisdom, like what you may have journeyed and what you would go back and say to Aimee 5-10 years ago about what you wish you knew you could have done. And then the other part of the question was, Rita, you talked about, listening to your heart, the embodiment, and we do still live in a man's world, unfortunately, that is, and this Gregorian calendar and all of those kind of things, and I'm trying to be in my feminine and work with my cyclical cycles, and as women we have these ebbs and flows, but then as a business owner have responsibilities and have meetings, but all I want to do is get under the bed sheet, how do you navigate that, if you've got any advice? It's grateful.
So yeah, what was, I'm just trying to remember when I was speaking to the mic back so people can hear.
What would you say to yourself in 5
What would I say to Aimee 5 years ago? And also there was something around trusting yourself, or if I'm just rephrasing it, was it more like, am I ready? Have I done enough work? Am I equipped enough? Totally get that story, sister. Yeah. Who can relate to that? I mean, yeah. I still go through that sometimes. Yeah. And I think, that's the beautiful part of the human journey. And I would say that, again, if you know that is your calling and it's what ignites your soul, and you are listening to that whisper of your womb, there is no right time, or this whole thing of am I going to be ready? I mean, even with my music for so many years, even now, it's I feel like I'm finally actually stepping into a place where I'm not putting my music on the shelf anymore. For 22 years I've been in that story of, I don't think I'm ready. But when spirit is moving through you and you're being beckoned to something and it lights you up, you feel that life force and you know that it's just part of you, listen to that, because we're being called forth. And if I could speak back to to Aimee even 5 years ago, I would just say, darling, look at the journey that you've walked. Look at the depths and heights that you have felt with every atom of you. You know, look at yourself and trust yourself, darling, because you're worthy of walking that path. And I still have to remind myself of that. And we're all worthy of walking that path. Yeah.
Thank you. And now I've forgotten your second. Oh, the man's world thing.
like honouring
So,
our bodies.
you know what? I feel like there comes a time where you just don't have to justify or explain yourself. And yet, you know, in terms of cycles and energies, I find when I am in service, energy flows through me. It's like not me giving, it's a force through me that's giving. And there's always enough energy. I mean, I you know, my team would say to you, like, I had breast cancer. 3 weeks later, I was in service all night. Like, you know, like I just am that type of person that when I'm in service, the energy flows, and it's chi, it's the Holy Spirit, it's fire. It's not me, I'm empty of me, it's the Tao that's moving me. And so I have to do lots to take care of my body. I'm now much older, and I thought I was invincible when I was young. Just, you know, oh my God, I've had to do a lot of cleansing, I really look after my immune system. Actually, I'm difficult to be around for other people because I'm like trying to push supplements down them and make sure that they're looking after their immune system and eating good and really vital nutrition, things like that, and then rest, you know, which sometimes is difficult because those of you who are in awakenings may have mass activations at night when you finally get some space to yourself. And then you having all this electricity, all this fire, and then now it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, you've got to get kids to school or whatever at 8 o'clock. It's a whole thing. But, you know, one of the things that prepared me was 8 years of breastfeeding across 4 kids. It just really prepared me somehow to have that Shakti warrior, let the Great Mother in. And the other thing that might be helpful to you, I never planned to do any of what I do now. It was never in my head. It wasn't like, oh, I really want to do this for women or anything. It was actually just recognizing, and this could help you, that if you're masterful at something, then you have to know, I have a responsibility to share this. That's a very different way to look at it. If you know the words that you're going to say can lift another person to really reflect something so that they can really feel coming back into alignment with themselves, then we do have a responsibility to support another in that way. And so it's a natural thing. It's not a pushing and all that bloody influencer bullshit stuff. I feel quite embarrassed to be on Instagram and all that stuff. Because, you know, this is not that trying to look good, fast-speaking, gushy stuff. So just be authenticity. The answer is to both of us is listen and be in your absolute authenticity. If you find yourself trying to be something, then you know that's your ego, your shadow, which is why we have to, in that first initiation, really sit and listen to our mind that's judging, comparing, and doesn't think it's enough, or then goes into superiority and thinks it's above. And we have to slay that dragon internally.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Rita Hraiz, thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you all. It was such a great conversation. See you tonight. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow for another talk and for an amazing evening of music tonight. My gosh.
Tonight.
7 p.m. we have Lucy Wild and her amazing band, The Foxes. Do not miss that. And then we have Nessie Gomez for a 90-minute deep musical journey. And then I'm going to be closing the space with Unifying Us and Our Voices. So it's going to be a night to remember. Come and bring your dancing feet. Okay.